So let's. Hello, ladies, and welcome to the Goddess Connection Circle. Today, we're going to honor Goddess Freya. I'm going to talk a little bit about Freya and focus on all of her awesomeness. Freya was chosen for this circle because we are entering December. And I don't know about you guys, but when I think of December, I think cold, I think snow, and automatically I think Scandinavian and Vikings and Freya. So to me, it was an easy thought. Freya, cold weather. Freya, December. So that's kind of how I saw it. But honestly, Freya's amazing, and you can connect to Freya at any time of the year because she has a lot of, so she is Scandinavian, and we do think of cold, but Freya is also very much spring and summer too. Like, she is a goddess very much related to the element of fire. So Freya is a very versatile goddess. Definitely very versatile. You can connect to her really at any time of the year. And she's pretty awesome goddess, I have to say. So I'm going to go ahead and start talking about her. I'm going to pull up a PowerPoint that has some key points I want to talk about. And then we'll have a time if you have any questions, if you want to share anything, and then we'll have like a little visualization to connect to the energy of Freya. So okay, so this is the Goddess Connection Circle, the Norse goddess Freya. A little bit about what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk a little bit about the history of the Norse Pantheon, beliefs and customs. I'm going to talk about Yggdrasil, which is the tree, the world tree. I'm going to talk about the Valkyries, the Volvas. Well, of course, we'll talk about Freya herself, her sacred symbols, and I'm going to talk a little bit about 2 simple rituals to Freya that you can do. And then we'll connect to her energy. So the Norse Pantheon. Here's a picture of the Norse Pantheon. As you can tell, it's a culture that is very centered on conquest and war. Now, is that all there is to say about the Norse Pantheon and the Norse culture? No. There's a lot of interesting things that we can focus on that isn't all about war. They were very brave, and there is a lot of bravery in the culture. They were very resourceful. They had to live in incredibly difficult environment, and that gives them a certain edge, which is what makes them very brave and very much, I guess in modern terms, we can say go-getters, but they have that conquest attitude and behavior that made them very successful. Now, they shaped our culture as far as the US is concerned, because a lot of our ancestry here in the US and in North America in general comes from a mixture of British and German, and a lot of Scandinavian as well. And I'm sure you've heard that before Christopher Columbus stepped foot in America, the Norse, the Vikings had set forth in Canada. So we know that these men were very, very resourceful and very, very much that brave conquering spirit, no doubt about that. And that's reflected in their gods and in their mythology and in their stories. So I just wanted to point that out. When people think of Viking and the Norse, they think of, pillaging, raping, but there's just so much more. There's so much more to look at. They have a very deep spirituality, very, very deep spirituality that came with the culture. And the women were taught to be equal to the men in many ways. The women would fight alongside the men. the men in their tribes. And to be a shield maiden, which is a woman warrior, was something that was looked at as favorable. It wasn't looked down on. So this is a good example of how, even though you could say it was a patriarchal society, but it wasn't as patriarchal as we all think it was. There was a lot of equality to a certain extent. Women could be leaders, women could be governors, women, had that, they had that ability to be alongside with men. So I just wanted to point that out. These are some interesting things that not everybody associates to the Norse culture. We can go to the next slide for me. So a little bit of history on the Norse Pantheon. So Norse mythology was the belief of the people of Scandinavia around the time of the Viking Age, which was around 790 and 1100 Common Era. Odin, the Allfather, and Frigg are the major gods and goddesses. Okay, so Odin being the Allfather, meaning that he was the equivalent of Zeus. If we're familiar with Zeus, think of Odin as the Zeus for the Norse. He was the head god. He was the king, the one. Like all gods, owed allegiance to Odin. And Frigg was his wife. Okay. And so when we think of the Norse pantheon, Odin and Frigg were, we could say, the top god and goddess, but normally when we think of the Norse pantheon, we think of Freya. And so we'll talk about that, so how popular Freya really is. So two classifications of gods were the Asir and the Vanir. The Asir were about chaos and war. Okay, that was what they were about, all about warring and control of chaos. The Vanir were all about nature and fertility. Okay, so the two pantheons waged war against each other. So it was all about the Vanir and the Asir, right? Lots of warring going on, lots of fighting going on, and who would rule what? Okay, that was very center to the Norse pantheon. Okay, to how they believed. You can go to the next slide for me. So here we're talking about truce between the Asir and the Vanir. So although the Asir were warriors, the Vanir did significant damage to Asgard. Asgard was the home of the Asir, the home of Odin and his wife Frigg. It's often believed that they used their knowledge of magic in place of the strength of arms. So in other words, because the Vanir were all about fertility, they were also all about magic. Okay, so they were very much nature-oriented and magic-oriented. So they didn't have to put up arms. They can use magic in order to get their objective. So the war reached a stalemate, with both sides having suffered damaging losses. The two groups convened to discuss the possibility of brokering peace. As part of the truce, the two groups of gods exchanged members. Njord, the wealthiest of the Vanir, moved to Asgard and was adopted into the Asir. Although they were not named as part of the exchange, Freya and Freyr, which is her twin brother, joined him as well. Although they were still gods of the Vanir, their choice to join their father made them honorary members of the Asir's pantheon as well. So this is where the story of Freya and her twin brother come into the picture, okay, and how they became very important to the Norse pantheon and the beliefs of the Norse in general. You can go to the next slide for me, Marlu. Okay, so the beliefs. They call their entire world where they live is Asgard. Okay, so Asgard is technically the home of the gods. Okay, this is the equivalent, if we want to look at it in our Western way of looking at things, you could say this is heaven, right? Like that would be I guess you could say the closest way of looking at it. It would be like where the gods reside, or Mount Olympus, if we're looking at it from the Greek point of view. So there are 9 worlds in the Tree of Life. So if you can picture the Tree of Life, there's a picture there so you can have an idea. It's a huge cosmic tree, okay, with different worlds attached to the tree. As you can see, those little circles or balls are a representation of different worlds or different dimensions, okay, where different things are taking place. Now we've got Asgard, and then here we have Valhalla. The hall where Odin lives is the place where souls go to after death in the battlefield. So in other words, if you were a warrior and you fought hard, there was a good chance that when you died, Yggdrasil, thank you, Melanie. Yeah, the pronunciation of these words kill me. So bear with me.
I got you. I'm here.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, because yeah. Explaining is one thing, pronouncing is another. So Valhalla, when people died, and if you fought brave, okay, if you're a brave warrior, there was a good chance that you would go to Valhalla. You would go to live with Odin. That was the epitome of success to the Norse, right? The epitome of success is to live a good life, fight hard, die as a warrior, and hopefully you will live in eternity in Valhalla with Odin. Lots that you couldn't get. That would be like the ultimate of the ultimate, right? To the Norse. Now, there was a giant serpent, which is Jormungandr. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Jormungandr. He encircled Midgard. Midgard was Earth. In other words, where we live now. This is considered Midgard. And he was destined to fight Thor come Ragnarok. Ragnarok was the end of the world. In other words, what we call the apocalypse, where all of the gods were to fight all of the evil. So it was like in other words, it was like evil versus good, that kind of thing. And that was called Ragnarok. And that's something that's supposed to take place sometime in the future. Okay. Now, he is the middle child of Loki and the giantess Angroboa. Now, Loki, and I'm sure if you know a little bit about Jormungandr, thank you, Jormungandr. There you go. If you know a little bit about Loki, if you've ever heard of Loki, which a lot of people have at least heard the name Loki, Loki was what we call that god that is all about, he's a trickster. He's all about chaos, tricking. He is the I guess you could say the balance, right? What stirs up controversy, where the gods feel that they have to defend themselves against Loki. So there's lots of different ways of looking at Loki. Some people look at Loki as a kind of a necessary evil. Some people don't see him as evil at all. They just say that he is that balance that needs to happen in the world and in the universe, where everything can't be picture perfect and there has to be a contrast. So many different ways of looking at Loki, but Loki is very significant in the Norse pantheon. So if you can go to the next slide for me. Here are some customs. So Norse religious belief was characterized by the concept of seer, meaning custom or habit, in that it was fully integrated into the lives of the people. One would not attend service in anything like a church, but would observe worship of the gods in their own home, in a clearing in the woods, or in some sacred place of chthonic power. And if you're wondering, chthonic means earthy or pertaining to the underworld, having to do with deities and spirits. So in other words, there was no church, right? There was no church. There was no temple per se. Temple was your home. People would worship the gods in their homes, in nature, out in the fields. That's where people would worship the gods. Okay. And of course there were public rituals that took place, and things of that sort, and holidays that they would get together and worship the gods, but always in a type of celebration. And then whenever they were about to go into battle, they would then have a sacrifice, and that sacrifice is where they would sacrifice, usually a blood sacrifice, to the gods. Okay, mainly to Odin, sometimes to Freya, but that was That was the goal. It was to do a sacrifice right before something important was to take place. But most people would worship the gods at home. You can go to the next slide for me. A little bit more about Yggdrasil. So we've got Asgard, realm of the Asir and home of Odin and Frigg. Then we've got Muspel or Muspelheim, which is realm of fire. So that was a world of fire. That was a very fiery world. There was Vanaheim, which is the realm of the Vanir. So here is where Freyja came from. Freyja and her brother came from Vanaheim. Alfheim is the realm of the bright elves. So the Norse Pantheon is very big on the concept of elves and gnomes and dwarfs and elementals of every kind. Okay, so very, very big in the Norse Pantheon, Norse religion. So that was the realm of the bright elves. Midgard is Earth, realm of the humans, where we live now. Jotunheim was the realm of the giants and the frost giants. So they believed that there were giants. The giants were tend to be enemies of the gods. Okay, so this is the whole concept of them versus us. The gods against the giants. Then we've got Nidavellir. I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna try to pronounce the first word. I'm not even gonna try.
Sorry.
It's okay.
It's Svartalfheim.
Svartalfheim, thank you. In my next lifetime, I'm coming back as Scandinavian or German, but in this lifetime.
And Nidavellir.
Yes, yes. In this time, I do what I can. But yes, that's the realm of the Black Elves and the Dwarfs. Okay, so we've got two worlds full of giants, bright elves and dark elves. So there's a lot of elves going on here, a lot of elves and a lot of dwarfs. Okay, and then we've got Niflheim, which is the realm of ice. Okay, so this is a really cold world. And then finally we've got Helheim, which is the underworld. Okay, so, and we'll talk about Helheim in a minute, but those are the worlds. Now, talk a little bit about the upper realms. So Asgard, realm of the Asir, was joined to Midgard by the rainbow bridge Bifrost. Odin, Thor, and Loki, and Baldur resided there. Asgard is depicted as a celestial city of high towers surrounded by a great wall. Odin's famous hall of Valhalla, where his throne may have been located, is in the middle of Asgard. And that's kind of like a representation of it. Then we've got Muspelheim or Muspel, realm of fire. The fire giant Surtur and Surtur's forces of chaos live there. Then we've got Vanaheim, which is the realm of the Vanir, where Freya comes from. Then we have Alfheim, realm of the bright elves, presided over by the Vanir god Freyr, which is Freya's twin brother, who was one of the hostages sent from Vanaheim to Asgard at the conclusion of the war. The elves are magical beings, bright and beautiful, who inspired the arts, music, and creativity in general. We can go to the next slide for me. Then we've got Midgard, the realm of the humans. Between Asgard and Jotunheim is Midgard. The realm of human beings was first populated by Ask and Embla, from whom all other people are descended. After Odin, sorry, I'm going blind here. After Odin, Veli and Vekil-Ymir, created the world. They are walking along by the sea and find two trees, an ash and an elm. They create the first man from the ash tree and the woman from the elm tree. They understand, however, that these creatures are helpless and easy prey for the giants, and so they created Midgard to protect them. So this is technically a creation myth, a creation story from the Norse of how humans were created. After humans were created, the gods created Asgard with its high walls for protection, and then assumed to have made the animals in Midgard and the rainbow. You can go to the next slide for me. And the rainbow. Okay. Oops, sorry. Midgard, okay. In the Gylfaginning section of the prose Edda, the storyteller High describes Midgard. Okay, so Edda, the Eddas, are where we get all of this information about the Norse, their stories about the gods. It's considered, let's call it the Bible of the Norse Pantheon, right? Where they get all of the information that we now have, and their stories, their myths, and lots of poetry, prose Edda. Okay, and so it says, and it's a beautiful text. The Eddas is beautiful. A lot of gorgeous stories and information. So they said that the earth was circular around the edge, and surrounding it lies the deep sea. On these ocean coasts, the son of Bor, which is Odin, Vili, and Ve, gave land to the clans of the giants to live on. But further inland, they built a fortress wall around the world to protect against the hostility of the giants. As material for the wall, they used the eyelashes of the giant Ymir and called the stronghold Midgard. So interesting, right? What an interesting way of putting this. So as you can see, different cultures have different creation myths, and they're just so fascinating to see. It's like a glimpse into their culture and how they see things. You can go to the next slide for me. Okay, so here we have Jotunheim. Jotunheim is the realm of the giants and the frost giants, considered beyond the realm of order, a primordial place of chaos, magic, and untamed wilderness. Loki, the trickster god of mischief, came from Jotunheim, but lived in Asgard. Jotunheim was considered best avoided, but there are a number of lakes involving gods of Asgard purposely traveling there. A number of tales, I'm sorry. I don't have my glasses on today, sorry about that. Involving gods of Asgard purposely traveling there. Was separated from Asgard by the river Irving, which never froze and was very difficult to cross. Odin traveled to Jotunheim to Mimir's well of wisdom, and Thor also went there to the stronghold of the giant Utgarda, Loki. Anything could happen to a person in Jotunheim, as the tales of Thor and Utgarda, Loki makes clear. Nothing Thor experiences on his journey is what it appears to be, and at the end of the story, the stronghold and everyone in it disappears. Okay, so this is all information from the Eddas. You can go to the next slide for me. Then comes the lower worlds. Okay, so now we've got Svartalfheim or Nidavellir, which is the realm of the Black Elves and the Dwarfs. It's located beneath the earth in a dark and smoky place, and only by the fires from the forge and the torches on the walls can you find it. Then there's Niflheim, realm of ice and snow and mist, near the lower realm of Niflhel. And then we've got the lowest realm, Helheim, the realm of those who died of illness or old age and of most people. And this is the lower realms. And then finally, we have Helheim. So Helheim, what is Helheim? It's the realm of those who died of illness or old age and most people. So in other words, if you were not a warrior, you would end up in Helheim. So Helheim, and this is very interesting, Helheim does not mean hell, okay? Now, the goddess that rules Helheim, her name is Hel, which is H-E-L, or they also call her Hela. Now, she's the ruler of the underworld and the queen of the underworld, much like Persephone is the queen of the underworld for the Greeks. But I want to reiterate, it does not mean hell. It's not a place of punishment. It's just the underworld. It is a place of spirits. It's a place where the dead go to rest, but not necessarily is it evil. It's just not the glorious, you know, dancing and celebration that goes on in Midgard. I'm sorry, in Asgard. Okay, so in Valhalla or in Asgard, you have people celebrating all the time because these were warriors that died and went straight there. In other words, Odin chose them to be part of his kingdom, right? And so they're welcomed into the halls with Odin, and they're always, you know, according to the Norse, they're always celebrating. Helheim is a place not of such intense celebration. Looks like the corpse bride. Yeah, I know the artwork is like intense, but it really isn't supposed to be a place of suffering, is what I want to mention. Okay. So here it talks a little bit about when Loki's children were born. Odin knew that they would cause trouble and so sought to place each one where it would do the least harm. He placed the Midgard serpent in the seas which surround the world. He had Fenrir chained up and threw hell into a dark realm beneath the roots of Yggdrasil. This realm was then surrounded by a wall with only one gate and could only be reached by traveling downhill on a long, long path known as Helvig, the way of the road to hell, and crossing a dangerous river of weapons. Okay, so this is how he went to contain the sons and daughters of Loki. So Hela, sorry, is a daughter of Loki. But according to myths regarding Hela, she is not an evil goddess. So I just want to reiterate that. When, of course, Christian missionaries and monks encountered the Vikings and encountered the Norse, and they heard about Helheim, they made the mental association of evil and like what the Christian concept of hell, the Jewish Christian concept of hell. So probably where we got the name hell came from this, but not necessarily does it mean that this is a literal hell. So I just really strongly wanted to mention that. You can go to the next slide for me. So the Valkyries. The Valkyries are the choosers of the fallen. They are female helping spirits of the god Odin and were sent by him to the battlefields to choose the slain who were worthy of a place in Valhalla. These foreboders of war rode to the battlefield on horses, wearing helmets and shields. In some accounts, they flew through the air and sea. Valhalla, Odin's hall, receives the distinguished warriors. And then we've got Folkvanger, which is Freyja's hall, receives the rest of the warriors. And then the goddess slash Titan, because she is half of a Titan or half of a giant, Hel receives the rest. So the Valkyries were the ones that chose the dead for Odin, right? And then, so what happened was when a warrior would die in battle, here comes the Valkyries. And whoever they felt was a good choice to be with Odin, they would take them. And then the ones that were the rest of the warriors then went to Freyja, because Freyja is also a goddess of war. So she has a war aspect to her. And we'll talk more in depth right now. But just know that everything was divided between Odin and Freyja. And then whoever wasn't a warrior and died of natural causes would then go to hell, or Hela. Who are the Volva? So the Volva means wise women. They were ancient seeress diviners, able to look into the future. If you've heard of the Sibyls that were in the Greeks had the oracles of Delphi, or the ladies that were Sibyls. The Volva is something very similar. So they would look into the future. They were basically priestesses, okay? But priestesses that were diviners of Freya. An ancient seeress diviner, also able to look into the future. It's a name given to a group of women who are dedicated to Freya and considered shamans or medicine women. Okay. Generally, people used to fear them. So they were reported to be constantly moving from city to city in order to stay safe. People would be willing to pay the money for their help and their predictions. They had close ties to leaders of their clan. They practiced shape-shifting into power animals that were sacred to Freya. They also used a ritual cloak and staff to do journeys and to be possessed by Freya in order to get the answers on what they wanted to find out directly from her, considered more powerful than a typical divination. They used to chant the Seder, which were ritual songs called Vadokur, in order to achieve a trance-like state. All right, so the Volvas are a very interesting group of women, very much mixture of priestess, medicine woman, and diviner. You can go to the next slide for me. And then finally, here is Freya. Her name means lady mistress, encompassing all feminine. Other meanings are to make love or to court. She is considered to be the goddess of love, beauty, and sexuality. She is also a warrior goddess and the goddess of death, a goddess of great wisdom and magic, healing and prophecy. She is a shapeshifter. She could shift into whatever animal she wanted. She would have a cloak of falcon feathers that allows her to fly through the 9 realms of the Norse world. So she was allowed to go to any realm of the 9 worlds easily. She and her twin brother Freyr are of a different race of gods known as the Vanir. She ruled this Norse patriarchy. She is known to ride a chariot pulled by cats. She made a deal with Odin and is responsible for half of the dead warriors. So half go to Odin, half go to her. Women who fight alongside men are called shield maidens, and they were considered sacred to Freya. So any woman that was willing to fight for her tribe or her clan, they were considered to be shield maidens, especially if they were good at fighting, if they had been trained in fighting, and they would sacrifice themselves years of training in order to be able to be shield, like true shield maidens, and then they would honor Freya as they fought. You can go to the next slide for me. So when peace was agreed between the two sides, the Njord went with Freyr and Freya went to Asgard, where they lived with the Asir as a token of friendship. But Odin and Freya took an interest in the heroic dead, dividing the slain between them at the end of every battle. Odin's share went to Valhalla, while Freya's lived in her hall, which is Folkvanger. If you can go to the next slide for me. She's associated with love, beauty, fertility, sex, war, and gold. Freya loves gold. Freya is the owner of the necklace Brinsingamen. She rides a chariot pulled by 2 cats and is accompanied by a boar, a sacred boar called Hildisvini, and possesses a cloak of falcon feathers. Her priestesses are called Volvas and journey to seek her assistance. They divinate and heal and are considered women shamans. Go to the next slide for me. These are some of sacred animals and symbols for the goddess Freya. So here is a representation of the Brinsingamen necklace. There's amber and citrine are some of her sacred stones, or sacred crystals. There's a picture of her with her chariot being drawn by cats. The raven and the falcon are some of her sacred animals, along with the famous boar, Hildisvini. Picture of a boar, and gold. Freya loves gold. She loves jewelry. She loves everything yellow, golden, sparkling. That's very much Freya. Okay. You can go to the next slide for me. Ways to honor the goddess Freya. So best day of the week to do a ritual to Freya is on a Friday. So the word Friday, believe it or not, comes from Freya, means Freya's day. That's what Friday means. So it's Friday is so special to her. It's like named after her, which is so interesting. Best time of the day to do a ritual to her is while the sun is out, because technically she's a solar goddess. She's a goddess of fire and sun, very, very associated to the sun. Best color to wear when doing a ritual to her Yes, it's also, Ali wants to know, is it also Venus's day? Yes, goddess of love. Yes. So remember, Freya is also a goddess of love, right? So it's safe to say that Friday is the day for most goddesses of love. So Lakshmi is also honored on a Friday. Venus is and Aphrodite are, you know, honored on Fridays, and Freya is too. But technically, Freya, the name Friday actually means Freya's day. That's like what Friday actually means, believe it or not. The best color to wear when doing a ritual to her is green, and of course gold, anything with gold. Wear gold jewelry, especially a gold necklace to evoke the power of Brinsingamen, her magical necklace. For the altar, if you decide to have an altar to Freya, you would like to keep some amber or citrine, place them near an image of her. Best offering to give her is mead or beer. Right. Yeah. It's funny. Ali says that that's why Friday nights are considered nights for romance. Yes, absolutely. Because that's the night we honor goddesses of love and sexuality. So yeah. So for the altar. Oh, you want to offer her mead or beer? Definitely. This is one goddess that loves her beer. Great thing to offer to her is beer. Most recognized ritual to her are love spells. Okay, so if you want to work with Freya, it's all about love and also prosperity and abundance. Believe it or not, she's very good at bringing you abundance and prosperity. That's another thing that she's known for. Her candle color, it's good to burn green or pink candles. Now, interesting enough, green, because her association with nature, right? She's all about fertility and nature. But if you think about it, what color is the heart chakra? So some people say it's green, some people say pink, right? Some people see it as green or pink. So interesting. Love goddess, heart chakra, can't go wrong with green or pink candles. Green is also the color of money, right? In most countries, you know, green is associated with money. So it's also associated with prosperity and abundance along with gold, golden colors. So burning a green candle is not only good for love, if you think about it from the chakra point of view, right? The heart chakra, but also because it has to do with prosperity. Her sacred number is 11. Most recognized signs that the goddess has heard you is the appearance of a cat, a gift of gold, or a falcon feather. Now, falcon feather might be a little bit difficult to find, because that you don't find that every day, but a cat, it's a little easier, right? You do a ritual to Freya and then you see a cat unexpectedly, so that could be a sign from Freya, or a gift of gold, something golden. Doesn't necessarily have to be like actual gold, it could be something gold color. So definitely that's a sign that Freya has heard you and is hopefully honoring your request. And go to the next slide for me. So here is a simple, an example of a simple love spell to the goddess Freya. So I thought this was really interesting. On a Friday night, on a Friday, I'm sorry, during daylight, not a Friday night, during daylight, wear something green and wear gold jewelry. If you wear a gold necklace, invoke the power of Brinsingamen, Freya's magical necklace. Okay, the invocation will be on the next slide. Make an altar with the image of the goddess at the center and a green candle on one side and a pink candle on the other side of her image. If you have any of her favorite crystals, citrine or amber, clean them and, clear their energy a day before and give them an intention prior to putting them on the altar. So you want to prepare these crystals to be for Freya and for your intention. Then you're going to place an offering of mead or beer in front of the image, and you're going to ask her to find love or to find the love for someone. Okay. You can say the first and last name out loud. Okay. And light the candles. If you don't have somebody in particular in mind, you can just say, bring me my soulmate. Okay. And just picture whatever you think a soulmate would be. Oh, thank you, Melanie. Melanie put on the chart the days of the week and the gods that they go with. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to read that now in a minute. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that. So when you do that, think about the goddess, what she represents, and how you can have an improved relationship with her. Okay, so you want to, you want to develop a relationship with her. If you're going to ask her for a soulmate or you're going to ask her for something like that, you want to at least have a some kind of a relationship with the goddess or some kind of connection, right? Prepare to go outside. When you go outdoors, turn off the candles, keep your eyes open for any signs. The goddess has heard you and is working on bringing you what you want. It's common that a gray or whole or a cat, in other words, or a whole cat will cross your path. A gray, either a gray or a white cat will cross your path. If you see one, great, pet it if possible. If you do not see a sign, do the ritual without going outside. You can go to the next slide for me.
It's a little lower. It says, if you do not see a sign, do the ritual without going outside for 10 more days for a total of 11 days. Okay. On the 11th day, go outside and look for clues. If there isn't any, you or the person you're doing the ritual for is not ready for what you are asking. So if you don't get it on the first day, you've got 10 more days to do it.
Okay, awesome. So you keep on doing it until you see a sign that your request was answered. And if you don't, then it's just not the right time. So the goddess is letting you know that it's just not the right time for your request. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes we'll ask for something and the timing is not right. And so that'll happen. And then here's the invocation. Okay, connecting to Brinsengamen, which is the jewelry that she wears, the necklace she wears. So here's an invocation. Okay, it's a beautiful invocation. And I won't read it out loud. This will be on the PowerPoint so that you can read it when you're ready to do the ritual. And then this is another ritual I wanted to add. So the other ritual is if you want to ask her for a soulmate, right? It's to connect, to ask her for love because she is a love goddess. And so it's a great thing to ask her for. But this one is just a ritual once you decide you want to work with her. So this is kind of a sort of a dedication ritual to connect to her in a deeper level. So you want to drape your altar in red and silver, decorated with primroses and daisy flowers. Okay, so in this particular ritual, we're invoking her. Even though yellow and green tend to be colors we associate with her, as we talked about it, because of abundance and love, but this is invoking her as a solar goddess. And so it has not just to do with golden, but also red, because when we think of solar goddesses, we think also not just yellow, gold, orange, but also red. Okay, so this is like another aspect of Freya. So drape your altar in red and silver, decorate it with primroses and daisy flowers if you can find them. Have a silver candle positioned in each of the 4 directions. Have strawberries on hand as an offering. So even though beer and mead are her main, like what she really loves, she also loves strawberries. A lot of people put strawberries for Freya. And it has a lot to do with the whole love, passion, sexuality. You know, when we think of like strawberries, we think of strawberries, champagne. These are things that are very much self-care, self-love, and connection to romance, right? So strawberries are very connected to her. Begin by purifying your sacred space with incense that's sweet and flowery. Cast your circle, call the directions, and light the representing candle as you call each one. And there's an example in the next slide that's to invoke, to cast a circle or to invoke if you're not familiar with how to do it. You invoke Freya, and there's also an invocation for Freya added. Spend some time in meditation, feel Freya's presence, okay, through you and around you. Ground yourself, because that's very important. Whenever you do a ritual, you want to ground yourself when you're done. Take the offering and thank Freya for her presence. You may wish to put your offering outside so that it can be consumed by nature. So once you put the offering on the altar, best thing to do is try to dispose of it in nature so that, you know, insects and animals can have an opportunity, you know, to eat the strawberries, or you could pour the you know, the drink outside. Thank the elements and open your circle, and you disperse the energies. The candles can be used again in another ritual dedicated to Freya. So once you have lit your candles in a dedication ceremony to Freya, you're going to want to continue using those candles for Freya. That's, you know, the right way to do it. You can go to the next slide for me, Marlu. And so here's just a slide calling the directions. I know a lot of you probably already know how to call the directions, but just in case you want to be familiar, okay, call upon the powers of the east, powers of air, then you call upon the powers of the south, okay, powers of fire, call upon the powers of the west, which is water, which also connects to the mother's blood, call upon the powers of the north, which is the earth, right, powers of earth. And so this is a really pretty calling the directions ritual. I really like this one. That's why I added it. It's really simple, but it's really to the point, where you're really connecting to the different elements in order to make your sacred circle. And you can go to the next slide for me. And then here's an example of an invocation to Freya. And this you can use for this particular ritual to get closer to her and become closer to her energy. And if you can go to the next one, and then meditation to meet the goddess. Okay, so I just want to ask if, okay, so this is just to let you know that I am grateful that you came, obviously, and that the next one is in January to meet Inanna, the goddess Inanna. So we'll get to meet Inanna in January. These are some of the sources that were used for the information. So I want to take a moment to see if any of you have any questions. I know I kind of threw a lot of information at you, but any questions or any thoughts? Anything you'd like to share? Have you ever worked with Freya? Anything that you want to mention that could be helpful? Hi, Ali.
Silly question.
Okay.
The movie Frozen, is that Norway, and is that where Freya is a Norse god, right? Is that Norway Norse?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the Norse, or Scandinavia, is made up of Sweden, Denmark, Norway, and Finland. So technically it would be Denmark, Finland, Norway, and Sweden. That is Scandinavia, or what we call the Norse countries.
All
right?
those
in modern day, right? Yeah. So Denmark, Sweden, Norway, and Finland. And then I guess to a certain extent, I forgot Iceland. I'm sorry, in Iceland. I don't want to leave Iceland out. So Iceland is considered part of, but like Melanie says, modern day, because during the time of the Vikings, it was mainly, I believe, Norway, Sweden, and Denmark, and then afterwards the Iceland was discovered and Finland was added. So in the chat, I'm just gonna look at the chat real quick, and yeah, so Melanie says, yeah, I know you love Freya, right? And Odin. So there were German Europeans that were Norse. Exactly. The Norse were spread out quite a lot afterwards. They really did. So Melanie wrote here, which I love this, are the days of the week. So Monday is Moon Day. Tuesday is Tears Day, which is one of the gods. Wooden's Day, which is Wednesday. Okay, also one of the gods. Thor's Day is Thursday. See, Thursday, Thor's Day. And then Freya, some say it's Frigga. So some people say Frigg, it's Frigg's Day, or some people say Freya for Friday. So it kind of depends on how you see it. But Friday is usually, I personally associate it to Freya. And if you can tell, most love goddesses are invoked on Fridays. That's like their day. And then Saturday didn't really have a name other than bath day, the day to take a bath.
Yeah, that was their like washing day. And so Marlu, you bring up a good point. So it's Saturn, but that wasn't introduced until the Romans and Latin influence. So that's when they kind of switched over to different planets. So kind of the same idea, Moon's Day, Mars Day, Saturn's Day, stuff like that. But in Norse and not Celtic, in Norse, like the Pantheon in general, they didn't really, they had a name for it, but it was like the day or the night before Sunday or something like that. And basically they used that as like ritual bathing almost, so that they could start Sunday, which was honoring the sun and stuff like that.
Thank you, Melanie. That's awesome. Yeah, and then thank you. Yeah, so the Norse Pantheon is one of Melanie's specialties. So yay.
Yeah, so I mentioned Germanic European, so that's part of my lineage, and it's something that I'm very strongly tied to. So I guess that's probably why I take such a shining to it. But it's one of the first pantheons that I ever really did research on. So that's a long time of research.
Oh yeah. Yep. And I know you have a connection to Odin as well. So
yeah, and Freya as well. Freya was one of the first goddesses that ever kind of popped up for me. So yeah. Which
is awesome. And then Marlu says she has a question. On the last ritual, the invocation to Freya says, Mother of the Silver Moon. What was that your question? If she's a lunar goddess? So here's the thing. Freya is one of those goddesses that it's interesting. So I don't know if you've noticed, but she's weirdly both, right? So what happens is she's a solar goddess because she is a fire goddess, right? She's a goddess of war, right? So she has a lot to do with war. That war aspect of her is very solar, okay? Most gods that have to do with fighting or prosperity and that kind of thing is very connected to the sun, to solar, to fire, to that fiery energy, okay? And then goddesses that has to do with water, water is very lunar. So she has an aspect to her that's water because of love. She's a love goddess. So love is all about that water element. So that makes her very moon-like, very lunar. So she's kind of both. She's seen a little bit more as a solar goddess and a fire goddess, but she could also be water and lunar. So I'd like everybody to close your eyes. We're going to have a really quick visualization. I just want you to just kind of feel Freya's, yeah, she is all the things. I want you to have a chance to feel Freya's energy. So if all of you can just close your eyes, this is going to be a very simple connection, but I'd like you to at least feel her. So I'd like us all to visualize ourselves standing in a field. And this field is a beautiful field surrounded by trees, and there's flowers everywhere. And the sun is shining. It's bright and sunny and nice and warm. And I'd like you to feel a cool breeze flowing through your hair and through your clothes. And with this wind and with this air, you feel a light coming from the sky, almost like a beam of sunlight. I'd like you to visualize this beam of sunlight coming closer until it begins to take shape. And when it does, you see a beautiful woman with a cape of falcon feathers around her. This woman has beautiful golden hair and a necklace that is golden with a beautiful stone in the middle. She comes closer and you feel her radiating energy, her warm presence fill you. And as you feel her energy, she smiles and gives you a message. This is a message of connection, a message where she wishes to impart some knowledge to you. A personal message just for you. Listen to her message and feel her energy. As she delivers her message, take it in and know that this is one of many connections you can have to this beautiful goddess. You just need to ask her to come. She backs away, smiles, and slowly fades into the distance. As quickly as she came, she leaves. Now you're standing in this field. Take one last look around you. Enjoy the sights of the flowers, the trees, feel the breeze. And now come back to the room. Come back to your chair or wherever you were sitting. And when you feel ready, you can open your eyes. So I hope you had an opportunity to have a quick feeling of her beautiful energy. This is just to give you a glimpse of how awesome and radiant this goddess can be. And know that you can work with her whenever you want. And all you have to do is reach out and connect. Were you all able to get a message from her? Did you feel the connection? Yes? Wonderful. Ali, Melanie, Donna, did you all feel? Were you able to feel something? I know it was a quick visualization, but hopefully you get
it was
a quick message.
Yeah, she said, I'm here for you and I want to work with you. So that
awesome.
was interesting. But she was the first goddess in the Akashic reading that you gave me. She was the first goddess who appeared. So I don't know, like for you too, Marlu?
For Melanie, yeah, for Marlu too. Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
So I don't know who my matron goddess is going to be, but the reason why I say in Norway Norse is because when the movie Frozen came out, I love that movie. I felt such a connection to that movie. I don't know why. So I was just curious. You know, it's interesting. I just thought that was interesting.
Could be a past life connection. Could be Freya in the background of your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Melanie's like Frozen too.
Yes.
That was me. That's awesome. I have never seen the movie Frozen, so now I've got to see it.
What?
Yeah, I've never seen it.
You need to watch it.
I do.
I cried.
I
cried at the first one.
No, see, the first one was okay. The second one, that messed with me so bad on so many levels. I can't even begin to understand. Like, I can't even begin to explain. Wow. I'm like sitting there with my kids bawling in the friggin' movie theater, but also laughing because Samantha. But anyway, that's a whole other thing. Yeah, definitely watch it.
Oh wow. Okay, so I gotta. All right, so I'm putting that on my list. Must watch Frozen.
Yes.
Awesome.
I will. Olaf.
I love definitely. That. No. Definitely will watch it. So, ladies, I hope you had a great opportunity to meet Freya. I know we need to end it because the new moon is coming up. I got the new moon circle coming. So I want to give you ladies an opportunity to get ready. Loved all of you. Thank you for being here. And see you in January when we welcome Inanna. Bye, ladies.